So today, I hear that yesterday morning, well, I'll quiz you. What did you learn about yesterday morning for the long presentation?
Different types of mechanisms that you can incorporate, like speech.
Different types of mechanisms where you can you help me with that?
Where you can incorporate the speech, like the
where you can incorporate speech,
like the
sabotage, reinforcement. So you learned about speech. Was there another part of the presentation? Did you also learn about an L word that's really important? Oh, language. Oh, good. I was hoping you learned about language yesterday. So was the presenter yesterday a speech language pathologist? Okay, so she was supposed to lay the groundwork for today's presentation about literacy, the bigger capital L word, the more important capital L word, right? So I'm the reading specialist here at ISD during my regular job, and so I think that's how I got this particular gig. So that's exciting. Fair warning, I stayed up way too late last night. And my adulting skills seem a little bit subpar in the last 24 hours, so there's a good chance we could have some kinks here. But, I mean, we saw my sister try to be my click monkey the other day, and probably I can't get worse than that. So, as all good presenters, I start with a thought, you know, a powerful quote that I probably spent hours looking for on the internet sometime. No, I'm kidding. There's no substitute for books in the life of a child. And some people are really starting to argue with me about this because they think that books are kind of becoming a thing of the past because now we have the, what's that terrible I word? iPads, internet, iPhones, yeah. But at my house, we still have our library cards and we go there on the regular. So don't let people fool you about this trendy internet business. Books are still the king. Oh, great. Ange must have set this up. I don't know. For $3, you got an on switch and a device? Wow. Walmart. Just click it. You're in tech. Click it. Okay, so today we're talking about understanding early literacy, and here's a little visual of what some of you are. You're all in this phase right here. Some of you are in the red phase with the little baby. You're my favorite people because I don't have a little baby, and I like your babies a lot. And then, by the way, no sibling babies this year. You guys brought me like the youngest kid we got over there is a 1-year-old. I mean, I love 1-year-olds, but orange little guy learning to crawl, and then we've got our blue or purple toddler, and we're working up to be this green guy right here, but none of you are probably in this phase where the kid's legit a reader quite yet, so this would be a school-age child here probably. What? Oh, woo! You guys want a preview? Want to go through all the slides? Okay. Oh, okay, so just take a minute to think about your most positive early memories with literacy. What books did you love when you were young? What was your first experience connecting with a book? And just don't raise your hand if you still don't like reading and you never really enjoy it, because no one needs that negativity this early in the morning. So just positive polys only. What were the sights, the sounds, the feelings? What do you remember about reading when you were little? Where did you do it? What books were you wanting? How did it go in your home for you? Go.
Going into the library and getting 2 heavy bags of books and carrying them home because it was vacation time.
Yes, yes. You know really why your mom did that though, right?
No.
Shoot. Oh, shoot, okay. Because the reason I do that is because they have all the free time all of a sudden, and I'm like, no. So, yes, but that idea that we can go to the library and we can get so many books. How many books do you give a kid when you go to a bookstore? Yeah, $17, $18, $24 a pop. You're getting 1 book, and that's probably the only one I'm buying you for 10 years. But at the library, we're free to indulge them. Free to indulge them. So that's great, great memory. And the smell of the library book, it doesn't matter what library you go to, they all smell the same. Wait, I can't hear you. Speak up a little. This guy over here keeps talking. Always acting out in class, that one.
Okay, so at our house we had 17 stairs upstairs, and so I remember sitting on the top stair reading. I think it's like Run, Jack, Run, whatever, you know the one, right?
Dick and Jane.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember reading that, like, you know, I felt like I was like inside the book, and then also The Snowy Day.
The snowy day, yes, yes, look at all that. Yes, yes to the snowy day. So we had that concept of you found a special place and you knew that like you couldn't go anywhere you wanted all the time in life, but if you read early on, you got that feeling of I can go anywhere through this book. Anybody else? We haven't heard from a guy yet. I don't mean to stereotype, but that happens a lot during this question. Okay, right there, the guy, ooh, Alaska. My son called me yesterday from the top of a mountain in Alaska. He FaceTimed me. It was easy mountain, so it probably wasn't a great challenge to get up there, but.
Beautiful.
Go ahead.
I remember the reading books from kindergarten,
Uh-huh.
from school. They were Pug. It was Pug, Sea Pug Run or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And my mom would take brown paper bags and stencil on the cover. And so I remember that, and I remember reading Curious George.
Curious George.
So yeah, in the library, yeah.
Yes, I love, people always remember their first books, like there's still a nostalgia attached to it. And Ange over here, she still won't get rid of our first books. She actually still owns them. So I love that. So we want that for your kids. So we know that hearing loss can create a lot of challenges along the path toward literacy, but we want them to get to this place where their earliest memories are really positive. So we're going to talk about some of the foundation and the legwork you can lay to help them to have that first positive experience when they're ready. Okay, so the reason we do the language presentation before the literacy presentation isn't because I don't like to present on Tuesdays. It's because language has to come before literacy, and that is where the difference for a deaf or hard of hearing child comes for the literacy experience. If they're bringing to the task a different language experience than the typical hearing counterpart, or a less developed language, then it makes the task of learning how to be literate much more difficult. So language has to precede literacy. The reason I have the little house and the little school here is because it's fairly traditional for parents to expect, I don't have to teach my child to read. Where does a child learn to read? School. And you guys can sleep easy at night knowing that of all the things you have to do for your kids, teaching them to read truly isn't something that solely lies on your shoulders. Language is a different story though. Where is language developed? In the home. So the challenge is those teachers, those really hard-working, great teachers, they're really not going to be able to achieve the literacy outcomes that they want with your children if they don't have you getting this accomplished before they walk in the doors for that first day of school. All right, I get this question a lot. Can we just immerse them in print? So if we just took Johnny to the library and gave him 35 books a week or a day and just his room looked like this, will this kid be able to read? No, why not? Right, reading is not a naturally occurring skill for a human being. It's not something that humans just naturally did. Languages, in the earliest civilizations, they started developing language systems. But language, or reading and writing, they're secondary forms of language. They're not things that are as naturally occurring. So language is caught. Reading and writing are taught. I talked to you about that the other day during the communication presentation. Language isn't something we don't sit down and directly teach every part of language. We just catch language from all of our surroundings and all of our experiences mediating communication with people. Reading and writing have to be taught. Now everybody knows that one outlier kid who was 3 and learned how to read, and I'm really happy for that kid. And Scout and To Kill a Mockingbird, you know, she was like that. That's how that character was portrayed. But it's really not a common enough occurrence that we should bank on it for our kids. But for the most part, children have to be directly taught how to read and write. Language is natural, reading and writing are not. We talked about that. For most children, reading and writing need to be directly taught. And the advantage for your kids is the professionals who work with deaf and hard of hearing kids, that's what they spend most of their time learning to do. Literacy is, every deaf educator is a reading teacher. So you do get the advantage of having these professionals who are better prepared for this. I'm married to a 3rd grade teacher. Now he's a school principal, but he was a 3rd grade teacher, and I know how to teach reading more effectively than he does because I've worked with this population and we've had to work harder at it and spend more time with it. So you do have that going for you. So That's positive. It's a myth that people learn to read naturally just by being immersed in print. And we know this because we know places like Quebec, places where there are dual language access, maybe some areas of Texas. We know there are people that live in these areas where the print's available constantly in a bilingual setting. And not all of these people have learned French and English or Spanish and English. Even though the cereal box and the street signs and you have all this access, it doesn't happen for everyone. So that's how we know being just immersed in print isn't going to work. Okay, the other day in communication presentation, we talked about the factors that influence a communication option for a family and a child. And we had all these factors about the family, and we had all these factors about the child, and we have to consider all those things. Reading is that way. Reading is a really complex thing. It's easy for us now, so we kind of take it for granted. And we don't really remember much about the years when we learned how to read. What's your earliest memory? How old are you in your earliest memory where you can really remember being challenged in school or having a difficult situation? It's usually like 4th or 5th grade. Well, you're a pretty good reader by then. So adults get this kind of like laissez-faire attitude, like, oh, reading, it's not that complicated. It's super complicated, so remember that. You have the reader coming to the situation, you have the text that they're reading. Is it fiction? Is it nonfiction? What's it about? Has the kid ever even heard of this place or this person or had this experience? The context, what's the expectation? Are they reading just so they can enjoy it? Are they reading because now they have to take a test on it? Are they reading because they have to give a presentation? Or, you know, there's all these situations that change the task of reading. It's not just this static thing, and every time you read, you have the same experience. Think of the hardest class you took in college or high school. Statistics is one thing. Psychology of reading was mine. Like, there's that one textbook that you opened it and all of a sudden you were humbled and you were like, do I actually know how to read this book? Like, can I read this book? Really? Because it wasn't like reading the newspaper. It wasn't like picking up that novel, Ellen Hildebrand novel that we just read at the beach, you know. So the task of reading can be significantly different depending on what we're doing. All right, there's a lot of conversation about what's going on when we're reading. It's a really complicated situation. If you want to find out more, read a Psychology of Reading book. But most people don't really read it. I'm kidding. Just don't. Just keep like going to presentations and let other people who already read it tell you about it. So the interactive process of reading, and you see this? Look at this. Woo, interactive process of reading. They're going to remember that forever now because I highlighted it. Yeah. Okay, so this is probably, I can't really speak to all the professionals, but this is probably the most agreed upon process that the professionals can kind of come to an agreement that this is the general gist of what's going on. So we have these top-down and these bottom-up processes happening. So we come to reading, and I already know language, and I've already had background experiences. I've been to the zoo, I've been to the fire station, I've had a fight with my mom, maybe my parents have gotten divorced, maybe I had that day where my friend and I went on the bike ride to the park, maybe I've been bullied by a friend. So I have all these experiences, and I have some vocabulary, and I have language, so I know how sentences work, and I know what to expect of the syntax of our language. But then I have to learn this code, or what are these letters, and how do they relate to all this stuff I have? So that's when you go into kindergarten, and your teacher starts looking at you and saying, this letter, A, says, and this is an A, and this is a capital A, and this is a lowercase a. And when you see these on print, you want them to say, and sometimes they say A. Like, so you start learning, that's the coding. So you're learning that bottom. So you're taking what's on the page, and you're bringing it up, and you're joining it with that stuff that you brought linguistically and experientially to the task. Whew, right? I mean, like, it's just, they're not just reading. It's not that simple. Okay. So Jean Shaw is, I don't know, an iconic reading researcher, I guess. And she has the stages of reading development that are still pretty commonly followed today. So there are 6 stages. She starts at stage 0, though. So here we have pre-reading, just oral language. So this is before they're learning anything about reading, and they're just working on that oral language. So a lot of your babies and 1-year-olds are in this phase. Then you have 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. So nobody has a 6-year-old? No, we all stop at 5? Okay, you have older kids though, some of you I've seen them. So all these kids that are before they get to school, they're in this stage right here. And that's that big part of the bottom triangle. And where is this happening?
At home.
Ain't no teacher got time to teach all the language. Because language is taught, it's not taught. Okay, so anyway, we have all this going on at home. And then this is when they get to school, stage 1. It says grade 1, but in case you haven't noticed, in America, now kids are learning how to read like people are trying to earlier and earlier. And I want to move to Finland because those people are doing it really well over there, but Matt's not interested in moving to Finland. So here's where they learn the alphabetic principle. And the alphabetic principle is a fancy word for the exact concept of A says, right. B says, well, this is a tricky one. We cover this in cute speech class. R says, all right. Okay, then we get to stage 2. This is in grades 2 to 3. Children become more fluent, so they can read with better prosody and it sounds more natural. It's not that painful thing where they're sounding out every word and you're falling asleep because you should have started the story more than 5 minutes before your bedtime. So now they're becoming fluent. They can sound out the words. If they get to a word they don't know, they can work through the sounds, say each sound slowly. Bread and bread. They can work through them like that. And then they can decode the words. This is in grades 2 to 3. So second and third graders, that's what they're doing. Okay. But now there's this huge shift. Anybody a third grade teacher in here? Nobody's a third grade teacher? A little bit? You're a little bit of a third grade teacher. So third grade is notoriously like the turning point of elementary school. So in third grade, you go from learning to read, so your kindergarten teacher, your first grade teacher, your second grade teacher, all those people were teaching you how to read, and then your fourth grade teacher and your fifth grade teacher, these people expect you to be able to read, to learn about science and to learn about social studies. They don't expect you to come in and still need to learn how to read. So there's this huge shift, and these third grade teachers are just like, we have to do everything. So this is when you read to learn new ideas, you gain new knowledge, you gain new viewpoints. You read about things for the purpose of learning from them. You're not reading anymore to practice learning how to do it. So that's the big shift, in case you were wondering. Students can read widely then from complex and various texts, ideally by the time they're in high school. And then the most mature level of reading is college level reading, of course. And that's when you can construct your own meaning. You read something, but you can read it and take your own meaning from it and manipulate the text. Okay, so if we envision these stages, these 6 stages like a ladder, and we notice historically deaf and hard of hearing kids present with difficulties at about this 3rd to 4th grade level. So what happens when you're trying to climb a ladder and you have difficulties is you probably start seeing those. So this is like the ceiling that we see with a lot of students. Okay. So then if you think about what's probably happened is maybe this first rung, which is, what's this first rung and where does it happen? Language. What? Oh, hold on just a second. The first stage is language, and it happens at home. Right, okay. So that's what this first thing is. So if we don't have a well-established language before we go to school, getting up this ladder of literacy is going to be harder than it is intended to be.
How is it that if you have a child that cannot spell to save their souls, but they can read fine?
How is it if you have a child? I have a husband who cannot spell to save his soul and he can read fine. So that's special. So how he does it is, why can someone read but they can't spell? The first and last letter? Not, kind of, not really. So reading is decoding the print. So I have to look at it and know what it says. Okay, spelling is the opposite. Spelling is encoding the sounds. So I have to hear them in my mind and write them down with the letters. So my husband might be embarrassed to know that I tell about his spelling stories all the time. I mean, the man runs a school. Nobody's letting me run this place. I mean, they probably should, but they don't. So he has written the following on my grocery list. P-O-P-C-Y-C-L-E. What did he want to purchase at the store? Right. I mean, I have children in my home that can spell the word, and I'm married to someone that can't. The other day it was Aspergus.
Asparagus.
Right. So now we in our home use the word Aspergus. Like that is what we call it, just to make fun of him. So he's been to college, he has a master's degree, and he recently finished his program to become a superintendent, and he can't spell. So it's not the same thing. It doesn't matter if you can spell. Now, it probably matters that he can spell like most of the words. I mean, there is probably a threshold there. Like he can spell the majority of English words you see in print, and he has a really strong language foundation. Okay, but yeah, not the greatest issue you can have. So there are people who can't spell that can read, and I'm unfortunately married to one, and it's annoying. Anybody else a terrible speller in here? Right? I mean, like you're like a whole breed of people. So like if you saw that on a grocery list, would you like even judge? Like do you even be like,
I just learned how to spell spaghetti. Like, just.
Wow.
I will be here this year.
wow, maybe you guys can maybe you should start a support group.
I always just do SPEG. There you go. We know what we're talking about.
I am sure he will look to the children. They're getting older and older and better at spelling. I'm sure he will just hide it from me now. Okay. We can't pull out the frost files in the middle of a presentation. It will go nowhere. Okay. So anyway, here's the thing. You break a rung, you break another rung, you can't get up the ladder. Okay. So early literacy research. So the stage that you guys are in here for the young kids, okay, the stage that you're in here, here's a couple things that we know about it. Language, reading, and writing skills develop at the same time, and they're intimately linked. So we're working on that language, and it's still developing when we start working on that reading, and it's developing while we're working on the writing. So we want to be doing all the things the speech pathologist, I'm sure, inspired you to do. Scott, Megan, did I get that right today? Yes. Okay, Leo. Oh, I shouldn't have tried. Okay, so we want you to do all those things you were inspired to do yesterday with language, but we also need you to start doing early literacy things with reading and writing. Reading and writing. Literacy means reading and writing. And we need to work on both of them, and language. Okay. Early literacy development is a continuous developmental process that begins in the first years of life. You could still be getting better at it too. Like all of us, it's always continuous. Like I could become a writer and better reader and writer even today. But we need it to keep moving forward. All right, early literacy skills develop in real life settings through positive interactions with literacy materials and other people. So can a kid just like, hey, Joe, you're home, here's a book. Do your thing. Can you learn how to read just by putting a kid in their room and making them read? No. And if Joe's not a reader now, he's really not going to be a reader tomorrow because he's going to despise reading because that is not fun. All right, early literacy does not mean that they have to be able to pick up books. You guys as kids are young, but they have to start working toward the ability to pick up books at a later date. Okay. 2002 is super long ago now. A couple of things bothering about doing this presentation. I used to be able to bring in all these cute little props for my kids being little and show them to you because we had kids that were the same age. So somebody got older, and I guess that was me and my kids. And so now I'm like digging around the house yesterday. I'm like, where are all the days of the week underwear? And they're like, really, Mom? We don't have those anymore. All right. So that's a problem. The other thing is like this time that our government took the time to do all of this research and got all the people together, the power players for literacy, was a good long time ago. We probably need to get back to it. Anyway, in 2002, this is what we learned about early literacy. These group of professionals was appointed to look at all of the implications of all the different ways we were approaching early literacy instruction with children from birth to age 5, so these are your people. Wanted to determine how teachers and families could support early language, first, and then literacy. And they were asked the question, what are the skills, what skills do we need for young children that will tell us now at ages 0 to 5 how the reading will go later in the journey. So we were looking for what do kids need to be good at now that will predict how they'll do later, okay? All right. Guess what they came up with was an answer, 6 skills. Are you bored? You're looking a little bored. Don't get bored. We have to do this for like forever longer. It's not my fault they set it up like this. Okay, the first one was phonological awareness. We'll talk more about it. The second one is alphabet knowledge. They also said your kids need to be good at rapid automatic naming of letters and digits. They said rapid automatic naming of objects and colors. Rapido, I know that word. Writing or writing their name. 4 years of Spanish and I know the word rapido. Okay, I was Spanish club president. Okay, phonological memory. So on top of everything else you're trying to accomplish, you're probably trying to potty train someone, you're probably trying to get them not to hit each other and to stop biting. You also need to get these 6 things in line. Okay, what is phonological awareness? It's the ability to recognize that words can be broken. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on, I didn't read that clearly. They can be segmented into parts without print. So we're not reading the print yet. We haven't started looking at the letters, but we can still break words apart. Hold on just a second. So if I say, what's knee without the n, you have e. What if we added tr to the e, now we have tree. So playing with words like that and understanding that they break down, you know how we do in cute speech class, what sounds do you hear? And we can, build them up. These two have the same endings, they have the same rhyme. So those kind of activities, that's what kids need to be doing before they ever even look at the letters on the paper. Yes, right. But remember, like I said the other day, if they're not happening before 5, we just need to be sure we're monitoring where we are with everything and that we're still working toward it. So, obviously we're all here because we're parents in the special ed setting. Our children have presented with something that will put us into special education. So we also need to be cognizant of sometimes what that can mean is it takes kids longer to get through those stages. So, deep breaths. Right? So yes, ideally they happen before 5, most typically, but if not, we just want to still be aware and educated about what we're watching for and what we're working on. Okay. All right, parts of oral language can be combined to form words, so we just practiced that with the letters. This is important because later you need it for both reading and spelling, which, as we just talked about, can be super difficult for some grown people. And it's not just a set of skills, but it's also just having that concept. It's the earliest introduction for children to understand English is really just, any spoken language is just really a series of sounds. That's the entire thing. So they're getting that understanding of the alphabetic, the phonemic foundation that will then guide them to the alphabetic principle of our language. Okay, so here's what we see across the continuum. This would be the 0 to 5. What we want to see happen. We want to see them start imitating sounds. When you look at the baby and you're like, ba, 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 ma, 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 and then you want them to say it back. There's a reason that we do that. It's important. We want them to start mimicking our spoken language. We want them to use 2-syllable consonant-vowel consonant words. We want them to become aware of rhyme. Do you guys do nursery rhymes with your kids? You do little sing-songy rhymes? There's a reason that we do all these things. Engage in language play. We want them to use alliteration. Peter, Piper, picked a peck of pickled peppers, all those beginning initial consonant sounds. Playing with words, right? Sally sells seashells down by the seashore. Kids get really excited about that kind of thing. Rhyming. Again, the nursery rhymes, the books, syllabication, understanding the parts of the words. And then here at the end game here, we want them to be able to recognize sounds that match. So we want them to be able to recognize that something's rhyming. We want them to recognize that these two words are similar in some way. We want them to blend them, segment them. So this is what we're doing. That's phonological awareness. Okay, so what can you do to make this go well for your kid? You can use nursery rhymes, finger plays, books with rhyming, alliteration. You can repeat, you can imitate. So like, I don't know. If you open pretty much any engaging early children's book, you'll find rhyming. So I can turn to any page here. Because of that splash, a hen got wet. Because she got wet, that hen got mad. Because she got mad, that hen kicked a bucket. Because of that kick, the bucket went up. Because it went up, the bucket came down. Why is this not rhyming? Thank you, Dr. Seuss, for letting me down. Here, this one probably rhymes. It's a song. Oh, this one never lets us down in the rhyming. Do you have this one? Oh, come on.
We rented it from the library.
Is your, oh, I love you. Is your mama a llama? Is your mama a llama? I asked my friend Dave. No, she is not, is the answer, Dave. She hangs by her feet and she lives in a cave. I do not believe that's how llamas behave. Oh, I said, you are right about that. I think that your mama sounds more like a bat. Right. So even if you didn't know the bats are awake at night and they hang from their feet in a cave, what you knew was you needed a word that sounded like that. And you can finish that book for a lot of reasons. We'll talk about that more today. Alphabet knowledge, skill number 2. It's kind of a twofold situation here. We need letter knowledge and we need to know about the alphabetic principle. So we need to understand about the letters, so that's when we need to know our alphabet, but we also then need to understand that the letters relate to the print with a sound. That's the connection there. We have a sound and that's why we put the letter on the paper. So it's a language-related ability, reciting the alphabet, that part of it, and a code-related skill, which is where the paper with the letters on it comes in. Okay, this is a fun fact. I don't know if you've ever stopped to think about this, but when you say a letter name, so you're saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay, and a continuous sound like M, why did we name that letter M? M. What sound does M make? So yeah, we want them to start making that connection that the sound that the letter makes is in almost, there's like, okay, W. It's a problem. W doesn't say W, nothing. It says woo, so. But anyway, most of it's pretty nice to us. And stop sounds like B and P, B and P. Do you hear the sound at the beginning? So that's why actually naming the alphabet and not just finger spelling it is helpful to literacy, because the sounds of the letters that they'll need to know for the print are in the names of the letters, except W. So on the side, you need to be like, woo. Okay, lowercase letters appear most frequently when you are working with print. So you know the fridge magnet letters? You know, like in 1980, you could only get those in uppercase. And now you can get them in lowercase. Why is that a good purchase? Why do we want the lowercase fridge magnets? Because when you open a book, most of the letters are lowercase. The only ones that are capital are the ones at the beginning of the sentence or the beginning of a name or the ones that are screaming at us. So we want to work more with those lowercase letters if we're struggling with learning them. Oh, only 12 letter pairs share the same written configurations. Did you know that? Fun fact of the day. You guys, when you're at trivia night and someone asks, your table's going to get points. So only 12 of the letters S, W look the same, big and little. Think about what a kid's seeing when they see a capital A and then a lowercase a. Do they seem like they should go together? No. A capital R and a lowercase r. Do they seem like they should be good buddies? No. So only 12 of them make sense visually that they would pair up, that they're the same both ways. L, kind of. O is exactly the same. Which one? U, similar, just has that little tail on it, yep. C is exactly the same. P is exactly the same. Yeah, so fun, you can play with that. Okay, so this is the foundation of any language that has an alphabetic principle, which our language, English, does. Okay, we want them to understand that the letters are there to represent a sound that goes with a word. We want them to understand that the letters and sounds go together. Okay? We see the greatest growth in this ability between the ages of 4 and 5 years old, so like late preschool, early kindergarten. And we will eventually need them to learn 40 different graphemes, which are the letters that are associated with phonemes. Okay, so it starts like this. They get familiar with the alphabet song. You know it. You know the song. Can you sing it? I mean, you got to do it really, you need to do it well. I never sing, I'm kidding. I won't even start the birthday song at a birthday party. I'm all like, Okay. I always tell my kids, there's a reason I work with deaf people. Ask your dad to sing the alphabet to you. Okay, discriminates letters and numbers from scribbles. So, you know, right now when they draw you a picture, like, look, it says, hi, Mom, how was your day? It does, right? Or they tell you, read it. So much pressure, right? I love when you read to me. Okay, then they start to recognize letters and they start to use some of those. They start recognizing their own name. They start recognizing common signs and labels, and it's super embarrassing when the first thing your kid can read is the golden arches. Or the Disney symbol. That was another one my kids could read early. That says Disney. Walmart, yeah, it's embarrassing. Says so much about how we spend our time. Okay, and then we want them to start learning to use the letters in invented spelling. Invented spelling is that time where they write the word exactly how it sounds. So they write it like my husband does. Like that. He's so cute, the way he uses invented spelling. Okay, so we're going to sing the alphabet song. That's what you're going to do. You're going to create a print-rich environment with literacy props. Literacy props are fun toys that have words on them. So this is a literacy prop. Why is this a literacy prop? So it says police on the back, so it has the word please. What's it have right here? Police officer, and then it says Frost. We knew we were having a lot of kids. We're like, just put the last name on there. Can't be Police Officer Aiden because then it won't work for Anne Marie. Okay, the other thing we added when our kids were young, so our firstborn, he got cute little printed ones, probably from, I don't know, Pinterest or Etsy or something. And by the time I had a fourth kid, we're like, give him some note cards. So, but originally we printed out tickets, and it said like your offense, and you could check the boxes and give people tickets, and you know, right? Because you're such a good parent when you only have like 1 or 2 kids, right? 4 kids, I'm like, pshh. And it's like the hearing, because like you can hear. It won't be hard for you to learn to read. So anyway, so note cards, and then we sent him to school for career day with his tickets in his pocket. Teacher's got a lot of tickets. So literacy prop. What else do we have? Oh, I got this from Evan's room last night. He was sleeping. How is this a literacy prop? Has his name on it. We got to put that there, so we could have called it anything. But this is what else came with it. Some wax crayons, a wipe-off envelope, notes in there. Yeah, so it's wax crayons, dry erase crayons, and I guess all because they're like wax crayons, really, Allison? They're all wax. I told you I went to bed really late last night. Dry erase crayons probably is more appropriate. And so you can write it, and then there's some postcards in there that you can send, or we could just put Post-it notes in there. Don't you want to come to my house to play? It's so fun, and just like school. Yeah, well, you know, Evan would say we could write on the mailbox, and I would say he ruined it. So that's all. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I don't know. All right, one lady that came to Parent Infant a couple years ago, she's my idol because she had ABC fabric drapes in her kids' room. Like A is for something probably ugly and hard to decorate around, like alligator, and then B is for baseball or something. And she's had them up. That's a literacy prop of champions. Avengers, we have Avenger sheets. They have some words on them. Days of the week underwear. And socks. Barrettes. Whatever. Okay. We want to read simple alphabet books. With them that talk about letters, sounds. This was the only one I could find yesterday. You guys basically ruined my life last night too, by the way. I was having a pretty good day. And then I needed to bring some stuff for the presentation. And the person who has hoarded all of the child's materials is my daughter. And I only have one daughter. And she's a slob. And so she keeps everything in her room to play school, and I had to go in there last night, and every drawer I opened had like trash in it. And so like I was just like slowly like rising my anger level and my frustration, and I was just like, so my husband stood guard to make sure I didn't try to clean it that night, so I went back to work on my presentation. So thanks for that, guys. So I got this out of her room. So M is for monkey. We also, one of our favorite ones that taught my husband and I a lot of foods before we maybe got as healthy as we should. I didn't know some of these foods that were in this book when we first got it for our firstborn. So it's an ABC book. I mean, you just don't eat some of these things in Illinois, Midwesterners. Okay. Incorporate natural writing opportunities. So you can go a long way with just like having a lot of these around. Like we have one in Evans, he calls it his bum bag, AKA fanny pack. And he keeps it in there, and we go somewhere, he like busts it out with a pen and writes down some notes. He keeps one in his car case, which is just like a suitcase little thing that he keeps by his seat in the car. The kids always had these boogie boards. Have you seen these? Okay, so when you go anywhere and you have the list, like has your kid ever tried to take the shopping list from you? Right, let them have the shopping list. If you can't handle that, you're just gonna have to work through it. Let them have a shopping list or make another one with a few things that they can check off. But those natural writing opportunities, send them to write, oh, we ran out of your soap. Can you go put it on the shopping list? They're probably just gonna scribble something, but that's not the point. The point is you're creating natural opportunities like, what do we write about? All right, this is Evan. Yeah, he's pretty cute, but he's kind of a lot of trouble. This year, his lowest point was when he made up a story about a priest. He goes to Catholic school. It was kind of concerning. He made up a story about the priest, and it wasn't a very nice story. It was about the priest throwing his phone during Mass. And I'm like, really? What do you think about that? And Evan said, I think he's just too Catholic. And I was like, so 2 weeks, fast forward like maybe a month later, and the priest calls me one day on a Friday, which they go to Mass on Friday mornings at the school. And so I'm at work and I'm like, and he's like, this is Father Tom. Oh my goodness, what do you do wrong to get the priest to call your mom? But it was okay. It was a good phone call. But Evan makes us nervous. I see my sister couldn't hold down the fort over here, so. Oh no, it turned sideways. It does not do that at home. Okay, so this song is good for him because it's teaching him. Did you get it? He has youngest child syndrome. He always thinks we need to have all of his pictures. So anyway, that's like little songs like that that you can work on that are helping him develop his literacy, but he just thinks he's singing you a song. This right here, I don't know, can you read what this says? I don't think it says, I think it says from. I can't remember. This was like several years ago. He's 7 now. Well, he's almost 7. This says F-R-U-M. From. Why did he spell it like that? I mean, not just because Matt's his dad. I mean, genetics, yes, but that's how it sounds. So that's called invented spelling, and that's okay. I mean, it's unattractive in your 40s, but it's okay. Okay. So this is how it works when they start writing their name. That's the next skill that they'll work on, and it kind of ties in with the stuff we just talked about. They're going to start making circles, scribbles, etc. They're going to start drawing more zigzaggy things, more lines. They're going to start they're going to start writing from left to right, maybe start working toward the top of a paper. They're going to start marking on the paper and saying that it says my name, and then a letter. Then they start drawing separate shapes, like they start trying to put them separately. Like sometimes you'll see them like this scribble and they leave a space. And then they scribble it right, because then now what are they trying to mimic? Words. And sometimes you see a big dark dot. Because sometimes they figure out the period first, you know? They're like, I don't know how to write all the words, but the period, I can do that, that's easy. It's like a large circle. And then they eventually get to this part where they recognize that print is representing a spoken word. So I say cat, and they start being able to figure out that they're going to write the k with a, and the a with a, and the t with a, right. All right, and then they begin to use invented spelling to write messages. All right, what can you do to help with this? You can model the use of writing for authentic purposes. Again, the grocery list. What else do you guys write for? You write a grocery list. You might write notes to each other. Do you guys write love letters on the bathroom mirror? You're the cutest. But you can and you should.
Our elf does.
Your elf does. Your elf writes. Those elves are very literate. What else do you guys write for on the daily?
Lunch notes.
Things to do.
Don't lie. You guys write like this. Can your kids start writing like this? What would they first start using to practice their authentic writing like this?
Their thumb.
They're use their thumbs. Are they going to use the letters first?
Emojis.
They're going to do emoji writing first. They're going to send you like a when you're out at the hotel and dad has his phone and they're talking to you, right? Or when you said no about something that they can't go to McDonald's to eat, they're going to send you right? And that's okay, that's early writing, and then they're going to start sending you messages that way. So let them text dad or mom or grandma. Don't let them probably post on your social media account. They might put something you know out there. I got to work one day and this lady's son had put like 27 letters of emojis on a post on Facebook. I'm like, hey, did your son get your phone this morning while you're getting ready for work? She's like, what are you talking about? She didn't even know. And I was like, yeah, he totally did. And she had to like go back and find it and clear it up. He's 3. So he had left a nice note. All right, so you want to start getting all of these things, easy to grip crayons, those big thicker ones, the pencils, the chalk, you want to have it all. Stamps, shaving cream, pudding. The siblings today are going to practice writing in shaving cream, so we just spray it all over the table and then have them write in it. I know. This was in my kids' bathroom for all the years because my husband would start each day. He gets up early, he's weird, and he would start each day by writing a message. So in the earlier years, he had to draw a picture of our day, and he would just write good morning, and then he would start listing things that each kid had to do, or congratulations, or celebrating something that they had done. So you can use your decor as a way to work on this. You can have the kid write back to you. Have you seen the paper that has the big open spot at the top for the picture? Okay, so you can get this in notebook form. We have it in, this was from my daughter's messy pigsty. So we have it in both, like the kids always had notebooks, but they also have it like this. So this part is intended to draw a picture because that's going to be easier and give them some way to write. And then down here are the lines where they can start writing about their picture. So you can get those things for home now. You want to start showing them letters and words, like where you see the magnets, cards, like just start engaging. I get on kids all the time at school if they can't read the print on their shirt. Like, why are you walking around with a shirt on that you don't understand? Like, you know, make sure that you tell them, like, if you put a shirt on them that has a message, it's some funny joke, like today Evan went to camp with so far, so good. And he knew to come in the bathroom and he gave me a face like, so far, so good. Like, he knows what that shirt means and why it's funny because you don't just want him running around with graphic t-shirts they can't understand. This story up here, do you see what this is up here? This is Ian. So this is the little guy that we got from China, and this was about 2 weeks after he got home. We went on family vacation. So he didn't know any English yet. He knew some Chinese sign language and some home signs from the orphanage, but he couldn't read. And he didn't know any English. And this must be, I think that must be Emery. So this says right here, Frost. Now my husband has never come to the presentation, so he used this wonked out F. Should he have done that? Should we be using this font when someone hasn't learned how to read yet? No. But anyway, so he used that. So this was Ian learning his last name. So we had just adopted him and we knew he's already 8 years old. We have no time to spare, like he's way late to this game. And so we had to start working on our literacy on the beach. So he didn't get to build a sandcastle that year. He's gotten to build a sandcastle since, relax. Okay. So we had the 6 skills and we reviewed them. Oh, you learned them all. You learned 6 skills. Geez, what time is it?
10 minutes.
Wow. We already learned 6 things today.
Woo-hoo.
Okay, but unfortunately that panel that got together, they gave us 6 things that were really helpful, but then they kept giving us more that were moderately helpful. So here are some more skills that they say young kids from 0 to 5 need to be proficient at to be predictive of later literacy achievement. So we have concepts about print, understanding the print goes from left to right, it starts at the top of the page, those kind of things, that we turn the pages this way. So you'll see them at first, they'll read a book, it's upside down, and then you want them to work toward understanding that, you know. Print knowledge, a combination of alphabet knowledge that we've talked about and concepts of print. Reading readiness, getting the vocabulary and their memory. Oral language, where does that happen?
At home.
And visual processing. Okay, this is a really simple one. They help read familiar books. They will read a book, you know, when they open it and they're like, I want to read it. And they've read this book like 1,000 times, but they just change it up a little, or they tell you. That's okay, we want them to read the book, it's fine. We want to encourage that. And then we want them to working toward answering what and who questions about books that we've read to them. And then we want them to start looking at books the right way from front to back. We want them to retell simple stories. Okay, so sometimes when you finish reading a book, so do you have this book?
Yes.
Right? Moms of Boys, this is the best book. I love this book. So anyway, if I've read Runaway Bunny, and now my child's at this stage where I want him to start retelling simple stories, I'm just gonna open it back up and be like, hey, tell me about what happened with Runaway Bunny. Now you tell me, and just show him the pictures and let him retell the story. Okay? Which means you have to start story time more than 5 minutes before bedtime. And you have to hope they don't pick out one of those ridiculously long Disney books. Those books. This is our 7-minute warning, guys. Okay. We want them to keep recognizing print in the environment. Oh, and then they start doing the run their finger, you know? Okay, so there are things that teachers make so cool that you never thought of as a parent. So this was Evan's favorite way to run his finger along text, because what is this? Can you see it? So witch's finger. So you had to have one of these at home. Because everything's better if a witch might be reading it. And then Amory always had to have about 5 of these in her room. Because teachers have these, and so you have to have them too, because that's awesome. All right. What can you do? You're going to read to them. You're going to be expressive. You're going to let them touch the book, let them tear some of the pages, relax. If it's a library book, they'll know, right? I mean, the library is super affordable until you ruin one of the books, and then it is the most expensive place ever to get a book. All right, don't neglect the cover. Talk about the picture on the cover. Talk about the author, and model the use of reading and writing for authentic purposes. If they never see you reading as an adult, they're probably not going to think it's a really important skill. So do your kids ever judge you so hard because you're holding your phone? And they're like, are you just posting something on Instagram? I'm like, no, I'm reading an article. And I show them, like, my kids judge so hard, they always think I'm posting on social media or I'm texting with their dad or something. He's not that interesting. I don't need to talk to him today. But like, I'm also reading books, or I'm listening to an audiobook, or I'm reading an article, or I've checked my work email. So I tell them that all the time, like, what all are we doing on these things? Because they think that we're just, you know, they think I'm playing, what's that block game, whatever, or Candy Crush, or they think that's what I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm a sophisticated woman. So be sure that you show them all the different things you're doing on there. All right, this is a really fun thing if you want to geek out hard and try to teach your kid to read at home. That's fun. This you can get for about $12 on Amazon, maybe $15. And this is a program that we use here at the school to teach early decoding for that beginning. A says at, S says, and then working into sat and mat and hat. So this is literally a school curriculum book printed for parent use. So you can teach your child to read in 100 easy lessons. Now again, the caveat being, it depends on the child, it depends on all those factors that we talked about. Maybe they'll need to do it 2 or 3 times. Maybe they'll have to do some of the lessons 2 or 3 times before they can move on. Maybe it will take longer, but this is a scripted tool that tells you as a parent who hasn't maybe been trained to teach someone how to read exactly what to say and then what to have the child do, and exactly where to point and what to have the child do. So it kind of can give you the confidence that you're ready to help them read, even though maybe it's your first time teaching somebody to read. I got through having 4 kids and I've never potty trained anybody. So you should also just choose your daycare provider wisely. I have taught one of them how to read kind of on my own. All right, so this is not teaching them sight words. It's teaching them how to decode the print, understanding the alphabetic principle, which is the foundation of English. Okay, we're exactly where we need to be.
Way to go.
Okay, thanks for the applause, guys. You guys are so supportive. Okay, so this slide right here, I just really like to drill this into the parents that come here, because it was really something that, I don't know, makes me feel better. As a teacher, I mean, as a teacher and as a parent, makes me feel better. So where are you on all of these skills and all the things, just like, where is your child now? Where is your literacy environment? Like, what do you already have there? What could you add? Where are you? And then just keep moving to the new goal. You don't have to bemoan the fact that maybe you're behind. You don't have to bemoan the fact that maybe you can't do everything right now. Just like, where are you and what can you do next? What could you be working toward? Because there's so much. And I try to tell the teachers here a lot, like, there's so much. I know they can't do a lot of things. We have a lot to work on. I get it. But like, just like, let's feel successful with just what do we need to do next. Let's focus on that. So that's just what we want to do. We just want to be purposeful and engaging, and we want to be sure that we're moving along. All right. I think I'm supposed to probably offer to answer questions now, but you probably, we'll do that next. So do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
What are your thoughts on sight words?
What are my thoughts on sight words? That's a really good question. My thoughts are, everyone changes, research changes and ebbs and flows so much that I am the girl that covers all my bases. So I'm going to buy into sight words, I'm going to buy into decoding, so my kids and my students always are working on both. So sight words are the words like can is a sight word, but I'm trying to think of one that really fools kids. What? R, thank you. R is a hard to read word. They would think it would read as a, r, eh. Why would they think it would read as a, r, eh? Because of the alphabetic principle, right? And so sight words are words that we want them to just automatically memorize by sight and know them. And so you'll see a lot of decks of those. And so some people argue about that in literacy circles, and they argue about how kids need to learn how to decode. They need to look at it and they need to have that experience, because if they say a, r, eh, kids do have that ability to then kind of say R. Like, you've heard kids do it before, and you're like, whoa, how did you figure that out? But they can do it. But her question is, do I believe in kids using sight words? Yes. I mean, we want things to become automatic. If something's automatic, it doesn't use up your cognitive energy, so you can focus more on the hard parts of the text. You want some things to be automatic, and working on sight words gets you to that place. Yes?
So, over implants, you know how, or even like with hearing stuff, you have to like, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so Aiden my son is 3. And
Okay.
he started to sight read, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
So he can recite all of his colors, numbers, and everything. I think YouTube taught him. I have not taught him.
Mm-hmm.
I have taught him. So at this point, we haven't even really kind of like taught him, like the sounding out those letters, like what you're saying. So will that interfere with how I should be teaching him?
No. No, because yellow for him has become like McDonald's or Walmart for another kid. It's just something that he has as a sight. So, yeah.
So it's okay that he's like picking up whatever. And
Yes, it's okay that he's learning how to read on his own. Lucky you. Wow, we feel so sorry for you. Just kidding. No, but you can start doing things like, if he knows red, you can say, what if we took away the r and put in a b? Then what would that word be? You can start playing with the words. So if he has some words that he knows, you can start talking about how those words are changes, and parts of those words are in all these other words. Because it's like a puzzle, and their pieces are repeated throughout.
I feel like he doesn't even know, maybe he does, but like even the alphabet that long. Yet,
But you don't have to have the alphabet to have that conversation, because you can just do it through the air with the sound. So print aside, you can just say, oh, right, red. So what is another word that sounds like red? Bed, like, you know, what rhymes with it? You can just use his experience. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Does he go to preschool yet? Okay. Have not started teaching letter sound correspondence?
yeah, I mean, people in school since like preschool, like now.
I want to live where she lives, guys. Was it free the whole time? Oh.
But now he's in regular school.
Oh, okay.
He's through the school district.
Right.
He's on a bit,
Right. So most preschool programs do some phonics instruction in preschool, which is not really necessary. Like, you can wait until they're a little older, but they do it. So I'm surprised. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Oh, we got a yawn in the front. It's unfortunate. It's all right. I won't take it personally, mostly.
So My daughter, in addition to the hearing loss, she has a disorder which is going to make her expressive language either very delayed or not possible.
Uh-huh.
I think her receptive language, she understands a little bit more than she's able to communicate. She's going to be using like a Nova Chat like one.
Uh-huh.
Have
Right.
you seen kids go from a device like that to being able to eventually have some literacy?
So I don't work with a lot of kids who have gone from that device, but that device would not preclude them from having literacy per se. That device is just helping them to express themselves. There are students who still use different readers to track print, help them track print, and work on literacy, but expressively they still use that device. Because literacy is still about what the input mode is. So if she can see print, then they'll probably still work toward that. Does that make sense? Yeah, mode. Hey, you've picked up some stuff around here this week. Anybody else? Anything else? Anything else? Okay, now tell me something that you'll go home and add to your home or do differently that's related to literacy development. Oh, what? Literacy props. Give an example. What might you purchase or bring into your home? Or use differently that you already have there? You didn't know there was going to be a quiz, did you? No? All right. So maybe you could write with your lipstick a message to your kid on the mirror. A dry erase marker comes off the mirror. Get a chalkboard, those kind of things. Make sure you have books. Are books just for bedtime? No, what's the problem of books just being for bedtime? What are we associating reading with then?
Sleeping.
Right? That's not a good idea, guys. We don't only read at bedtime. So, yeah, make sure the books are downstairs too, not just in the room that we do. Story time isn't just for bedtime. It's not just to make us tired. It's not something we only do in our bed.